for the members, and can you explain it a little more in depth, a little bit for some of the members?
Sure, no problem. No problem, Councilman Brewer. The petitioner is listed as Artie Amendalis. He is actually a beneficiary. Mr. Amendalis is an actual beneficiary of a trust. A trust is its own distinct person under Indiana law that has a personhood, can operate through obvious agents. We, the attorneys, being an agent of that trust. They can own property the same way an actual person can own property. And that trust is the owner of the property in question. It says the petitioner is Artie Amendalis, but he is simply a beneficiary of the trust. I believe that his name got added during the Plan Commission meetings because they simply needed a person to authorize us to represent the trust. They needed an actual signatory to authorize us to represent him. So that's how his name kind of got added, but he is actually not the landowner. He's a beneficiary of the trust. The trust itself is the landowner. I just wanted to make that clear in case Attorney Williams or Attorney Pohl brought it up later, that it wasn't the actual owner. If they checked the records, they saw that Mr. Amendalis wasn't the actual owner. I just wanted to get that on the record somewhere.
Okay, I have no problem with it. Is any other council members have any issues with that? Okay, seeing none, we will move forward at this time. Attorney Braggs.
If I may be able to share my screen, I have a series of photos I'd like to show the committee to further explain why we are here today and why we are petitioning for this change of zone.
Yes, that's fine.
Okay.
Yes, it's a purple and yellow objects on there, box.
Yes, this is a overlay from the City of Gary zoning map. As all the members can see, we have Ridge Road here at the south, we have Chase at the east. This is the area of land that we will be discussing tonight. And I won't take up too much time discussing it, but I do think it's important for the committee to be able to see just how much of this area is currently zoned light industrial, that's what's zoned in purple, and how much of the land is zoned residential, that's here in yellow. The trust currently owns 1, 2, 3, 4 parcels of land in the yellow that it's seeking to take from residential to light industrial. This has all been presented to the Plan Commission, and it received a positive recommendation, and that's why we are here before this committee. Again, this is taken directly from the zoning map. I have to zoom out a little bit there because you can't zoom in on the zoning map. This is an actual real-time overlay of this particular property. I know it's a little bit difficult to see the red lines here that divvy up these parcels. So for all involved, these are the 4 parcels that we just discussed. 1, 2, 3, and 4. These are the 4 parcels of land that the trust currently owns that are currently zoned residential. And the trust is seeking to change the zone from residential to light industrial, with the ultimate goal of bringing forth a project for trucking here in this undeveloped area. Again, as we previously discussed, this is the area that is zoned light industrial, whereas the members who are looking can see that there are certain tractor trailers around. I have to let the members know that some of these tractor trailers are actual mobile homes that were pre-existing prior to this going to light industrial, but there is tractor trailer parking over here. There is also auto parking here in this area. So truck parking, this is going to be active truck parking. This is not going to be just simply store and forget truck parking, is something that's currently going on this current block. This is the simple change my client would like to make so that this portion, as opposed to this portion, is light industrial. It's not a major change. It's not a major change of the area. It is simply an extension of the industrial zoning. Now, as I previously said, there are portions of this that are zoned residential. And it's important that we put before the Plan Commission that just because something is zoned residential doesn't mean that there's actually people living on it. Going down Ridge Road, this is one of the properties that are seen along Ridge Road that is zoned residential. Whereas this may have been a house at one time, as all can see, it is currently in a place for auto repair. Again, another place that was once a home, but is now currently an animal hospital. Another location that was possibly once a home, but is a Mexican restaurant. So just because a place is zoned residential doesn't mean that it's people living there. Now, I will let the council know there are other parcels that are zoned residential that actually do have residences on them, but they are the vast minority of this area. So it's not as if we are seeking to bring trucking into a neighborhood. It's an area that is already light industrial, although there are some homes in the area. This is a more current view of this actual location. And when I say more current view, the previous picture that the council saw, or the committee, I should say, saw, is 8 years old. This overlay is 1 year old. And as you can see, there is already Gary Truck Park that is developing in this area. This undeveloped land is already being changed to truck parking. And if I move this over, everyone can see that there is active truck parking already on this block through Solomon Trucking. As the committee likely knows, Gary is becoming a trucking hub. Having multiple expressways running through the city has benefited the city in the fact that there are many trucking companies, many shipping companies, many carriers who want to do business here in the city of Gary, and this is just an extension of that. As I previously said, Gary Truck Parking has already started here. This area here that is fully undeveloped is where my client is looking to rezone to do something ultimately very similar to what you see there. This outlined area is my client's property. There are some buildings existing on them, but those buildings are overgrown. They were storage buildings of a sort at one point, but it will be taking a piece of land that is not utilized at all and putting it into not only use, but commercial use for the benefit of the city. During the Plan Commission meeting, the owner of the property just south here came and spoke in favor of this change of zone. They said it would be good to see development happening here. Obviously, it might help with their business, but they ultimately said they would be interested in possibly even selling this business for my client to be able to expand. So there are people in the area who are for this. There are some who may be against it, but I can let the council know that this was discussed on the record at the Plan Commission meeting. With that said, are there any questions by any members of the committee?
Any council members have any questions at this time? Councilman Brown?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to say I'm impressed with this presentation Attorney Rags has presented before us. And I truly understand that our city is moving more in the trucking industry. And I think it's important for us to really understand the importance of the future of our community, because other communities like Maryville, who has Amazon and other warehousing, has really benefited from it. And I know we have been a steel city in the past, but we have to change our DNA. And I think this is another way to change our DNA and be more business friendly with a community that wants to embrace us, because we have I-65, 8094, the toll road, we have the lakes, we have Route 30, we have, or 30 runs east and west. It's not necessarily in Gary, but it's an alternate route. Ridge Road is more or less like Gary. But I'm saying all that to say that from my perspective, being elected to help serve the people of Gary, I hope that they understand that I understand that we have to embrace some sort of business to move our community forward. And it may not be something that everyone is comfortable with, but economics is economics. We haven't been able to get big boxes like Walmart and other corporations to come in, but everyone needs trucking. I don't care how you look at what I'm saying. The trucking and the railroads run this country, And it's important that we look at economical ways to make our city grow in that aspect. I just wanted to say thank you, Attorney Rax, for the presentation, and I wanted to make my position clear. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right. Councilwoman Caldwell.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. August 23rd, the 5th District had a community meeting, and at that community meeting, this petitioner came and presented the whole plan that they had. So you can go back and look at that meeting, because I'm sorry to say, but none of the council members came to the meeting to hear it. I was really disappointed, but you have the opportunity to go back and look at the plans. And I am in favor of it because that is in the 5th District. Thank you.
All right. Any other council member?
No, I have a question though.
Councilman
Now,
Brown?
is that, it says J&R Fruit Market, is that over by where that fruit market used to be on Chase Street?
That used to be Frank's Nursery.
I'm sorry.
Area. Frank's Nursery. Am I saying Matthews Nursery? Matthews, Frank, Matthews Nursery.
Oh, okay, okay. Thank you.
Any other council member? Okay. Is there, well, before we go to anyone from the public, I am the planning chair, not just of this planning development of the council. I actually sit as the planning chair for the city. And I did get a chance to hear the full presentation. So I'm sorry I missed your meeting, but I did get a chance to hear the full presentation firsthand. It's a good plan. There wasn't really, no one really objected. It did get approved by the planning commission unanimous. And I'm happy to see that it's before us, and I plan to give my full support.
I need it louder.
Is there anyone from the public that's on that would like to speak at this time? Anyone in the chat? Okay. Not seeing no one, we will take this before the full body of the council. Trying to get a date here. I believe our next council meeting is on the 19th, so I would recommend that this go before the council on third and final on the 19th at 6 p.m. I'll see you then. Attorney Rax. Let me acknowledge Councilman Lay has joined us, Councilman at large. We will move to our next petition that we have, CPO 2021-78 at this time.
Hello.
Yes.
Hi, thank
How you doing,
you.
Phil?
I'm good. How are you?
All right. Before you get started, I'm going to have Mr. Bory, if he would chime in at this time, and he will start us off.
This petition has gone before the BZA a couple times. There were some questions that needed to get resolved. And so overall, we received a few emails, but no written responses to the 16 neighbor notice letters that were sent. But we did receive in the BZA meeting on September the 20th, there were 3 neighbors who responded in support of the petition. There were 2 neighbors who responded in opposition to the petition. The reasons they stated for opposition were concern for parking, traffic, and congestion. The petitioner, in response to some of those comments in a previous meeting, had included a snow plan removal for pickup and drop off through the alley. Hopefully I didn't confuse this with the other petition. So in that meeting on September 20th, the Board of Zoning Appeals voted to forward this petition on to the Common Council with a favorable recommendation. I have the petition before you, so at your request, I can move it to the zoning map or the GIS map. just let me know. I will take any questions at this time.
Any questions, council members at this time? Councilwoman Marsawa?
Question, did I hear correctly that they'll be using the alley?
Yeah.
Or maybe I misunderstood.
Mr. Boyd, can you go back to that?
Yeah, Latasha, do you want to speak to the pickup and drop off?
Yes, I can. Our pickup and drop off, we were want to have it in the front of the house, but the neighbor across the street was concerned about traffic and congestion. So we got a plan together to have drop off and pick up in the back of the home, where we have a plan for snow removal and for our clients to come through the back of the home. The property back there is owned by family.
Does the garbage pickup come through the alley or the front of the house?
The front of the home.
Okay. You said snow removal. That would be, that may be kind of hard in the wintertime. I don't know. You plan on having your own personal snow plow to
We have-
remove the snow?
We have a contract with a snow plower, a relative that will be moving the snow for us, that lives 2 doors down.
Okay, so I'm sure you won't be the only client. And if he gets busy or gets stuck somewhere else, it's just something to think about.
As of right now, it's only 2 clients. He has a business that is located not too far from the home. He does the business there and he'll do the home.
Any other council members?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Councilman Brown?
Do we have a ground level picture of the front and rear of this location so we could get a better, yeah. Could I see? Okay, that's the front. And so the neighbors weren't comfortable having the children dropped off at this part, the front part. Do we have a rear location where the actual drop off would be?
I do not have a view from the alley.
Oh,
On the side, is that the alley or is that a driveway?
I'm sorry, it has a driveway
So I'm
with
looking at
2 parking spaces in the back.
in the back. Okay.
Yes.
So your driveway, it goes all the way from the back all the way to the front?
No, it doesn't. It's like part in the yard. It's a garage back there, and it's a platform in front of the garage where 2 cars can be parked.
So to get to the garage, you have to go through the alley?
No, to get to the garage, I'm sorry, it's a sidewalk that takes you to the garage.
So Mr. Boyd, can you put the picture back up of the front of the house again? I want to make sure we all on the same page.
Yeah, I was looking up the map here so I can give you the street view and move it around.
So this is a street view here where the driveway can take you directly to the back. Does this driveway go directly, does it keep going where you can go to the alley from this driveway?
That's not our driveway.
That's not our driveway. We don't have a driveway in the
You
front.
don't have a driveway? Okay.
No, it's in the back.
That's the house next door.
That's the house next door's driveway.
Okay.
Our entrance is in the back.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Is there any other question from council members? Okay.
Is that a rear view right there? So that's okay, that's from there. You have to go further down. That's the house on the corner. So I'm trying to just be as helpful as possible, but I'm also concerned about the safety of people going up and down the alley with children. not just in the wintertime, but period. That's just a concern, the condition of the alley, the trees. So certainly would like a better view, because if it's ample parking in the rear, is there ample parking in the rear of the home? Where they gonna drop
Yes,
off
it
at?
is. It's a vacant lot back there. No one uses the alley.
Okay. Is there good lighting?
Yes, it is.
Because you know, in the fall, as time goes back, it gets dark soon. Always concerned about the safety of the children and the people going in there, because I'm just not accustomed to doing business in the alley. I
We
wish
have
that,
lighting and cameras. I understand what you're saying.
right. And I wish the neighbor would, and it's not for me to tell people, but I wish there would be a little more understanding about that, just from a safety standpoint. Because it looks like everything looks, looks well. I mean, it's just that concern. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm finished.
Okay. So this property, are you renting this property or do you own the property?
I'm renting it from family members.
Okay. All right. Well, with no other comments from council member, I will say I'm going to have to make a site visit because I do understand the concern that Councilman Brown is talking about, and we want to make sure that there's not a safety issue.
Okay.
Okay, so I would say I'll make a site visit, but I will move it for third and final for the full body to vote on next Tuesday at 6 p.m. So I will ask for you to be present at that time.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, and Ms. Boyer, I want to be clear. Is that the only concern that we have?
Yeah, the concerns that were listed from neighbors and were discussed by the BZA were parking, congestion, and I think it was parking and congestion.
Okay, all right. If there's nothing else, we will move to the next, and I'll see you, Ms. Hill, at the council meeting next Tuesday at 6 p.m. where you'll be entertained by the full body at that time.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Have a good one.
You too.
We will move to CPR 2021-12 at this time. So, Mr. Bittner, is he on? I think those are his initials. Yes.
Evening. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, good evening.
Okay, very good, thank you. CPR, what do you have in front of you? I'll explain kind of the what the request is, and then we can go into specifically we're requesting the council to do. So by state law, any property that the redevelopment commission in certain areas is looking to purchase, if it's above the average two appraisals, requires the legislative body's approval. In this case, what we're proposing to purchase the property for is a little over $10,000 above the average two appraisals, meaning that requires the council's approval for the redevelopment can finalize their purchase agreement for it. So that is why this petition is in front of you. It's a situation where it's a strategic piece of property as it relates to the city's overall redevelopment plan. And I'll share my screen to kind of better illuminate that. But just for the council's knowledge, the option to purchase currently expires October 22nd. So we'd ask that if it's possible to have this, if the council's in favor of it, have a decision on October 19th. So the redevelopment committee complete their final action on the 20th and move forward with a closing on the 22nd of October, which is the end of next week. If it's all right, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and talk a little bit more about the site specifically itself. All right. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes, now.
Okay. What you have in front of you is the proposed purchase of property there for the 6021 Melton Road. The city and the redevelopment commission own the acreage around the particular parcel, being this parcel, and these two parcels, which accounts for over 10 acres of property. What is important about and strategic about this piece of property and why it's essential that the city owns it, as you will see, the parcel in question is directly at the new intersection of the 12 and 20 split. What you're seeing here is the Complete Streets project. The area in the purple is, if you've driven past Lake Street and 12 and 20 recently, you'll notice that it's been just paved in the last week, which is directly west of the Mosley Motel and the location of where the, depending on how old you are, the Jonathan's Pancake House, or I know it's been a couple things before. Well,
That's the way back.
Someone had called it something the other day that I'd never heard it, at least in my lifetime. But anyway, it's directly adjacent to the TOD and double tracking project that's going on with NICD, the RDA, and the other Lake Street improvements that we've completed. So here's another view of the overall general project area. Right where the 20 is approximately where the site is, and where the new 12-20 split is. So you can see from a strategic standpoint why this particular parcel is so important to the overall redevelopment and assemblage necessary to kind of complement what already is starting to happen there. I mean, we have the Beyond Four Walls Church and their redevelopment opportunities that they've already commenced on this corner, and the city wants to be a good neighbor and good development partner to allow them to continue to be successful in their endeavors. Were there any questions as in regards to the request?
Any question by any council member at this time?
Excuse me, Mr. President, I have a couple. You
Councilman Light?
indicated you're above the appraisal.
Correct.
Is that correct? Okay. Would you tell us how much above the appraisal you are?
Sure. It's about $10,000 above the average of the two appraisals.
Okay, so give me the figure that you're paying for it. Also.
$178,000.
So you said the appraisals were $168,000?
The average of the two is about 10,000 off. I can give you give me a moment.
I guess if that's information that, you know, as a matter of policy, we don't share. I know that we have that ability to not share that, just because that's just always been our practice and our policy. I think, you know, I don't think, I'll put it this way. I don't think if you're basically stating that you're paying, you know, 178,000, the average of the two was 168. You know, one appraisal is going to be, you know, much higher than, I shouldn't say much higher, but it's obviously going to be above 168. One's going to be below 168. I guess if that's fair to say.
The exact average of the two appraisals is 167,500.
Yeah, but I don't think I asked the name. I'm asking numbers. You're asking us to make a decision based on numbers. So right. I don't see what you would be disclosing other than the numbers. I assume the numbers, you said these numbers have never been disclosed before to anyone?
Outside of the redevelopment, outside of the redevelopment commission, the practice has typically been to leave the information from the appraisals in-house. We'll get public records requests, you know, frequently. I think if we were in an executive session, I think that, you know, obviously we would share that information with the council in an executive session. But I think in a public meeting, we tend not to, and just because of the policy that we typically have, we try to stay consistent with that.
Well, this is a meeting being held in the public. It's not a public meeting, and I'm not going to argue your procedure. I will formulate my vote. We're not in a public meeting, but a very special meeting. The mere fact the public can hear is a requirement of state law. But anyway, how many pieces of property you purchased? Is that also, can you disclose that?
Yes, it's a single parcel. It's the former Great Wall Chinese restaurant.
So it's a single parcel, and you have two appraisals that average out 167.
Correct.
That means, well, could I ask the question? Did any appraisal go over 200,000?
I think we could answer that. I mean, I don't think, I think we're not gonna.
You have to answer something.
Yeah, I think we're good with that.
It's over 200,000.
Both the appraisals were, I mean, like I said, it averaged 167.
No, tell me the highest one or the lowest one, whichever one you feel comfortable telling the council. Again, you can't, we've gotten the same debate before. We are legislative government. You're asking us to make, we could stop it if we vote in the negative.
We're happy to share those exact numbers in executive session or one-on-one, just in a public meeting. We've never shared appraisal numbers.
Well, in order for me to vote in the affirmative somehow before the 19th, he's going to have to call a special executive session so I know what I'm voting on.
Sure. And Attorney Cole can give you, let you view a copy of the appraisals.
Well, you said had been done. No, I think, well, that's okay. I made my decision. All righty. Thank you.
We'll get it for you.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman. I've concluded.
Okay. Is there any other council member at this time? Let me ask a question. This current site is owned by who at this time? Can that be shared? Who owns this site?
It's public record. It's Lin Yan Xing. And it's actually in the documents that I provided to the council.
Okay, I'm looking at it now.
Chairman, Mr.
Yes.
Chairman, I assure you that I don't think it's necessary. That may have caused us to get into previous problems. So obviously, if it's in documents, Indiana open door law requires for the council, for the public to hear, for the public to hear what you're doing. You're saying, well, I've given it to the council in some way, and they don't need to know who the owner is and these things. They need to know that.
So what I'm looking at, if I'm looking at the document correct, this is a purchase price of $178,000 at 621 East Melton Road for the public information. And we saying that it was a $10,000 over the appraised value. Is that correct?
No, it's 10,000 over the two values put together divided by 2. That's how they arrived at the 10,000.
Is that how they arrived to the 178,000?
No, I'm saying the 10,000 he gave us. I understand how it's okay.
The initial offering price, if I'm correctly, when we started negotiations over a year ago, was, I believe, $289,000. And we've negotiated to this point, and they're willing to go no lower in price. And once we came to an agreement, we ordered the 2 appraisals. And once we saw the average of the 2 appraisals, we gave the seller an option either to come down to the average of the 2 appraisals, or it would require additional scrutiny in public meeting in order to facilitate the price. And they opted for the additional meeting through the council. That's where we're at right now.
Okay. So, and I want to make it clear about the question that was asked by Councilman Lay. What was the 2 appraisals? Because I don't want to do an extra meeting. I got enough meetings going on. I don't want a meeting just to get a number. If we can get the number for the public and move forward, that's all we're asking for tonight. So what is those 2 numbers? What was the first appraisal amount? What was the second appraisal? Because I'm pretty sure this is a contract. It's based on the council approving this, and then the deal will be final then, correct?
That's correct. I think what Director Bittner was alluding to was essentially under 36-7-14-22. That's the specific site. The appraisals are solely for the information of the commission, and this as it pertains to public inquiry, and are not open for public inspection. So as a matter of the consistent policy that the redevelopment commissions had, they typically do not release the information pertaining to the specific appraisals other than if it's above that two, if it's above the average of the two. And then if so, how much?
So the council is asking a question.
Mhm.
What is it to appraisals?
That's what I think. That's the essentially the crux of the issue is that would be information. The appraisals, that's that information that is actually not open for public inspection.
Okay.
I
So
think we can
my-
discuss that. I'll put it this way. I think we can discuss that in executive session, and
Have an
it wouldn't really make
executive session to get a
sense.
number.
I think it would be. I think it would be against public. It would essentially be against what I would think is public policy to ask the commission, or not the commission, the council, to vote without having that information. I think what's kind of putting us in a trick bag is that the question's being asked in, essentially what is a public setting, and it goes against what we typically deny public requests for, which is information pertaining to appraisals when those are requested from the redevelopment commission by the general public. If that
So
makes
even
sense.
if the general public requests what the appraisal is, you wouldn't give it to them?
We don't. There's actually been
wow.
the most recent the most recent opinion by the access counselor upheld that. That's from the Times of Northwest Indiana, when they had actually sought a redevelopment or appraisals from the redevelopment commission in March of 2020. The opinion that was of Luke Britt at that time was that the redevelopment commission may withhold from disclosure and appraisal conducted in accordance with Code Section 36-7-14-22.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
this is amazing. Again, it's two branches of government in the city of Garrett. We are statutorily created. We're not even under the Constitution. One is called the executive branch, and the other one is called the legislative branch. Nowhere in there can people say we're public. We're not public. So whatever Britt, and I certainly know him, we disagreed previously on certain things in terms of the open door. He has a great deal less experience than I do, and he's hired by the governor to look out for agencies. But we're not the public. Again, I think they should revisit their, and I believe we received a letter saying they couldn't do it. And I believe a former director cited the law, but he keeps saying public versus the legislative government. The public does not make a decision here. Go to the public and ask them to pass it. That's the difference. The public can't pass it, but we can.
No, and I just to be clear, this is it. There's not an intent to keep the information from the council. It's just the idea of publicly disclosing it. It's we've remained consistent that we don't share the appraisals with the public. And right now we're on a Zoom. It's being recorded. I think we would be going against our practice and procedures to disclose that publicly. We have absolutely no problem sharing that with the council, given the fact that this is a information that the council, I think, does ultimately does need to make a decision.
And to further that, I've shared that information with the council president and the first council district person already.
That's the same person.
Right.
Okay. If I was a better man, if we had to take a vote tonight, I don't think you all would get this passed.
I could tell. And
and
again,
I hope thank you for the 19th, because I'm not feeling this too tough, and I'm not looking forward to doing an executive session. I can let you know that also.
I could tell,
Yes.
I can't stress enough. It really is. It's the question in this setting. It definitely puts us in a trick bag. If this were an executive session where that information would be protected, We just don't want to run afoul of our consistent practices and policies.
Sure. And here's another reason why we don't share that information in a public meeting, because when we issue RFPs for the city, those are the average, the sale price is the minimum of the average of 2 appraisals. We can sell the property for more than an average of 2 appraisals. If we release the appraisals publicly when we issue RFPs and things of that nature, then we'd in essence be telling people exactly, we'd be giving away our ability to negotiate the best, deal for the city of Gary. That's why we've consistently not released those, and that's also why it's codified in the state law in that regard. We're happy to provide that information directly to council members. I can show up at anybody's house or place of business in order to provide you that information, or one of my staff members. It's just that we've never disclosed that in a public meeting before.
So once you do disclose it, whether it's showing up in my house or in a private meeting, is there a disclosure that the council members have to sign in? It stops us from talking about it in the public.
No, we'd ask that you wouldn't, but we're not going to be requiring any NDAs or any other documents in that regard. It's certainly, we'd ask that, as part of a larger team, that we remain consistent in the way that we distribute information.
Mr. Chairman, last comment. What I would suggest that redevelopment, get an opinion that says how you can disclose to to a legislative branch. I'd like to see that opinion from Brett that says you can only give it to us in this executive session. Therefore, as you come before the council, you should first ask for an executive session and then tell us where in the open door law you can hold this executive session. In other words, what part of the open door law allows you to even bring this into an executive session? I think you're going to have a problem. Tell him to fit it in there.
Wouldn't that be under negotiations of real?
Well, yeah, I'm just saying, as opposed to you, Mr. And you may be absolutely right. Unfortunately, I'm in disagreement. And so I would suggest, let's get an opinion from the public eye. That's what he's there for, to give government an opinion.
Well, Rodney, wouldn't it, because even if public access record is requested, even if it's transmitted in email from the privilege, it would still be shielded from in that regard. So we could send it via email to the council.
I'm just saying, I like to see his opinion on this. In other words, I don't want you to violate any rule that you have. But again, you're saying, well, we have to have this executive session. Therefore, it must fit into one of these categories. It has to fit. So then you're going to tell me the category. See, no one has cited the category that we can hold an executive session. We're not negotiating on anything. We don't know what you're doing. You say you have 2 appraisals, and you average the appraisals. So you come up with your final figure of I think you said 178,000. I'm not going to hold you to that. It was a $10,000 difference, and therefore mathematically I can probably compute that. It's not difficult. You've given me enough to compute it. It's just the fact you're telling me to compute it. If you had 10,000, it differs. You can figure out what the other appraisal had to be. That's all. It's easy mathematically to figure out what it should be if it's only a difference of $10,000. But anyway, if they get an opinion and then tell me what section of the open door law that would allow us to do this in executive session, I have no future problems with you coming. Other than that, I'm not sure how you're going to do it.
All right, let's move on. I hope we can get this resolved for the 19th, because I see it puts you all in a tight position, and you are with the council in a tight position. And from what the faces I'm getting in the room, they're not feeling this too tough either. So we're going to have to make something happen before next council meeting, some kind of way. But I'm going to move on, because we got a long night ahead of us. Going to go to CPO 2021-13 at this time. That's
this
also
the,
yours too. This
okay.
is Fulcrum, yes.
Thank you. I'll provide a quick overview and then I'll introduce the members that are here from Fulcrum Bioenergy as well as their council. As the city council is aware, this is a project that commenced in 2018 and has been in some form of negotiation since then. We finally come to a spot where there's a development agreement in close to final form, and we had invited a couple members of the council into the executive session as we were finalizing some of the finer points of the development agreement as well as the Gary Sanitary District. Ultimately, this is an agreement that will need to be executed by the Redevelopment Commission, the Gary Common Council, as well as Gary Sanitary District, and Fulcrum Bioenergy. It represents a deal for 70 acres of property that's out in Buffington Harbor. And Eric, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe all of the zoning is currently in place, which is one of the reasons the site was selected. And the basic parameters of the deal would be to request it's already within the lakefront TIF, and what it amounts to is two bonds, a $40 million bond for infrastructure improvements that benefit the Buffington Harbor area, as well as a $10 million bond issuance that would be used for redevelopment purposes, specifically demolition and blight elimination throughout the city within the allowable area, the economic development area. So if there's not any initial questions, I'll turn it over to, I see Dennis Otten here from Bose McKinney. I'm not sure if Flynn from Fulcrum is on the Zoom as well, but I'll turn it over to them to kind of further go over the project. And if you'd like, I can do a share screen of Fulcrum's project overview, unless Dennis, you want to.
Flynn is on the line. Flynn, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Yep, I just jumped on, turned my camera on. Thank you, AJ, and thank you, council members. I'll give a brief introduction on the project Fulcrum and the project. As AJ mentioned, I have colleagues on as well from Bose McKinney, Dennis Otten, and Steve Ackard, who can talk in a little more detail about the development agreement as well. And apologies if you struggle to understand anything I say because of my accent, please interrupt me and ask me to pronounce it a little slower. Fulcrum, very quickly, Fulcrum is an operator of plants that convert feedstock that's been produced from municipal solid waste or trash that's going to landfill into renewable low carbon jet fuel. So we're backed by a number of partners and investors, some who are customers of our product as well. So this includes United Airlines, BP, Cathay Pacific, World Fuel Services, and Japan Airlines. We are in the final phases of commissioning and starting up our first commercial project, which is just outside Reno, Nevada. So that's in the commissioning phase. It'll be producing product later by the end of the year. And while that's been going on, we've been very actively developing what will be our second commercial project, which is, as AJ mentioned, we're planning for Gary there in Buffington Harbor. So we have a site that's selected, the former Lehigh Portland cement site that you should all be familiar with. Very briefly, broadly, the project in itself is about a $700 million project. In total, it'll support about 160 full-time jobs, 1,000 during construction. We're talking about an average wage of the mid-30s, $35 an hour. It'll produce around 34 million gallons a year of drop-in renewable jet fuel. As I mentioned, this is a fuel that reduces greenhouse gas emissions by 100% compared to conventional fossil jet fuel. And in addition to that, it'll divert a significant amount of waste from sort of regional Northwest Indiana landfills. Where we're at with the project, we have our feedstock contracted. We have our offtake contracted for the fuel. We've been working very closely with the Indiana Finance Authority. They've provided $500 million in tax-exempt bond allocation for the project. which is critical. As I said, we've selected the site, we've finalised our due diligence on the site. We have our permitting in progress. So at the end of April, we filed our air permit with the Indiana Department of Environmental Management. They're in the process of still reviewing that application, but that should go out on public display, hopefully before the end of the year for comment. We're in the process of finalising our solid waste permit, because while we're not bringing solid waste to this location, we're bringing a feedstock that's been produced elsewhere from municipal solid waste to the location there in Gary that will get converted into fuel. And because the feedstock has been derived from solid waste, IDEM are requiring us to